Okay, let's now focus on the Premier League Match Week 32 preview. Gents, one big game headlines this one. The big game of the season, the game of the season. Manchester City against Liverpool at the Etihad. That headlines the action. Delighted to say I'm going to be there reporting for Pro Soccer Talks. I'll be there on site on Sunday. Let's dig into this, guys. Let's focus on some of the key battles. We all know how big of a game it is. Man City sit top of the Premier League table. They're 1 point ahead of second place Liverpool. Obviously, with just there's not many games to go in the season now. This has that feel with 8 games of the season to go that this is the title decider. Of course, if one team wins this, they could slip up and it still could lose it or win it further down the line. But they have been sensational in recent months. So it seems like this is pretty much for the Premier League trophy. And I wrote something on Pro Soccer Talk on NBCSports.com which focused on some of the key individual battles. So I thought we'd discuss that and look at the tactics and break down the areas, because let's be honest, there's going to be big battles all over the pitch. But one that I really wanted to focus on to start with was Mohamed Salah, the leading goal scorer in the Premier League, against João Cancelo, who for me has been the best defender in the Premier League. And down that flank there, Cancelo at left back for City, Salah likely to start on the right for Liverpool. That seems like a big battle. Andy, what do you think? Because Salah is struggling for goals a little bit, maybe a bit of a hangover from Egypt not making the World Cup and qualifying. But who do you see winning that head-to-head battle?
Yeah, I almost don't care about the offensive end of that matchup for Mohamed Salah. I care almost exclusively about how much he can make Cancelo work defensively to prevent him from getting forward and tucking into the central midfield and being that player who creates a lot of chances for Manchester City. For playing the position that he does at left back, he's basically a central midfielder when they're in possession, and he passes like it. He plays balls in behind like it. He wins the ball back like it. He is a really, really uniquely talented player, similar to Philip Lahm, similar to Joshua Kimmich as well. A couple of one all-time great at Bayern Munich, another that will probably go down in a similar vein as well. A very similar style of play. And so if Salah can be dangerous at one end and force him back defensively, then that's going to hurt Manchester City in possession a lot more than I think people probably are going to realize, and probably people are going to focus on, because the tendency with these kind of attacker versus defender matchups is, well, how many chances is he going to get? Is he going to score a goal? But I think if Salah is able to force him to work defensively and put him into really one-on-one situations, and that's one thing that Manchester City don't face a lot of, is their defenders rarely defend one-on-one, because they've either got somebody back, or two, they're in possession of the ball, and when they do lose it, they've got multiple players in positions. They're smart, they work hard defensively, they rotate back the way that they're supposed to, and they put those chances out very quickly. Now that's against teams that aren't Liverpool and that don't attack as quick on the counter the way that, so this is one matchup, but those two players right there, I think, going to have a really big impact on the game, but maybe not quite for the reason that most people are going to think going into it.
I remember Salah scored that absolute worldie against Man City at Anfield, turned Cancelo inside out. And even though he seemed to be in a good position and Bernardo Silva was covering, he still managed to get past them and put it in the bottom corner across the goal. So, yeah, that for me is a real key battle. Another one, Nick, Fabinho against Kevin De Bruyne, especially if De Bruyne is playing as one of those midfield three for City. He might play in a false 9 and drop back a little bit. So even whatever position he plays in, I feel like he's going to be in and around Fabinho in midfield there. What do we think about that battle? And I guess Phil Foden will have a big part to play if he's playing false 9. And just Fabinho, for me, does such a great job at shielding Van Dijk and Joel Matip. And obviously Liverpool's record, clean sheets have been sensational in recent months, so it's working really well. Can they shut down De Bruyne and Foden in those little areas just in front of the back four?
I'm wondering what Jurgen Klopp has up his sleeve, because you would have circled Fabinho as 100% a key piece here. He's one of the only guys who played 90 minutes at Benfica and didn't sub off. And Klopp saved Jota. He saved Jordan Henderson. And I gotta say, I'm worried, if I'm a Liverpool fan, that I think that Klopp thinks he can win the midfield without Fabinho. I'm really worried about that, because it does
play Thiago and Henderson and
Thiago.
Maybe
Keita was fantastic, by the way. Keita looked like the guy that we thought they were signing 3 years ago against Benfica. But yeah, I think Fabinho, to me, I think they're both going to try. Both of these teams are going to try and win, like you were mentioning, out wide. And we've seen both of these managers maybe kind of growing off each other. That's why I love this rivalry so much. Trent Alexander-Arnold maybe was the first one. It could have been Cancelo to start inverting, right? He's a fullback, but he's now operating in these central places. And then we saw the same thing from Cancelo, and they've become almost like this third metronome. It's the way, honestly, this is gonna sound so goofy, but if you're a men's national team fan, it's how Berhalter was thinking he was going to draw up Tyler Adams at right back. I really think that's the case. I really think that's the case. And I am wondering if this whole game isn't going to be played on the outside.
Yeah, it's so many key battles, like we said, right? There is literally every position, and they know each other so well, these two teams, over the last few years. And they haven't really changed that much. There's obviously a few new players here and there, but they've just gone head-to-head late in the season, Champions League, Premier League for the title, that there's so much memory there in the bank, I think, on how to get one over or what not to do almost. So I think we'll see maybe a cagey affair compared to the 2-2 draw at Anfield earlier this season, just because we're that much further in the season and so much more is on the line. And then you also have the FA Cup semi-final coming up between the two the next weekend. And then, you might play each other in the Champions League final as well. So again, we spoke about it before. It's just probably up there with the all-time greatest rivalries at the same time in Premier League history, with the great Arsenal-Man United battles and Chelsea-Man United battles in recent years. And there's just so much to focus on. But I also want to focus on the other flank in terms of Andy Robertson and Kyle Walker, how they both get forward and influence their teams from those positions. I mean, Andy, that particular battle there, Robertson seemed to have gone over Walker quite a lot in terms of whipping in great deliveries and getting in advanced positions, because Walker is always on his bike, right? He's always told to get forward, and that's just the way Man City play. But he does have that incredible recovery speed as well to get back and give City maybe that extra ability to pull more men forward, because they know on the counter they might not get caught out because Walker's so quick. But what do you see from those two fullbacks there? Because they've been going at it pretty much ever since this Klopp-Guardiola rivalry started in the Premier League, right?
Yeah, so this is the one spot especially for City, that I'm completely unsure about. And I want to know what you guys think of this, because the narrative of Pep in the big game and overthinking and doing something that he doesn't need to. Is Kyle Walker going to play center back? Is it going to be a 3-man back line for this game because of the issues that they have at striker? And I think to make them a little bit more defensively stolid and limit what Liverpool can do in open space if you've got the 3 center backs back there, especially with Walker, the recovery. I wonder if Pep goes a little bit more safe in this game because they have the 1-point advantage, because they're playing at home, because it's their title to lose, if it's a little bit more managing the game versus trying to go out and just win it.
Jack Grealish, right back, maybe? No, I'm just joking. But maybe John Stones is obviously slotted in here and there. So that's a great point. He might even line up with one formation and then have an extra defender on who can slot over and just kind of keep the gaps. And of course, both these managers have the luxury that they don't really have, apart from Diaz for Man City, any big injuries at the moment that they're missing. Yeah. And at this point of the season, that's pretty incredible to think of how many games they're playing for club and country, that they're in this position. So that makes this game even bigger at the Etihad this weekend. And those key individual battles, I think it's difficult to predict, because there can be, Grealish, Sterling, Gabriel Jesus, or it could be Mahrez, Foden, De Bruyne up top for City. As Nick mentioned, Liverpool might not even play Fabinho in midfield, and they could have, Thiago Alcantara in a totally different role as well. So, I get that feeling as well. And I think that both managers now, there's that respect level there. Nick, you brought up the stats earlier this week in a meeting we had. They are neck and neck, right, in their careers when they faced each other in terms of how many wins and losses. And it's so beautiful to me to see that you can play a totally different way, totally different style of play, and still get very, very good results. And that's, again, another X factor to this rivalry, that you are watching two complete opposites in terms of how they play the game, and they're unbelievable to watch. So any final thoughts on this, Nick, before this mammoth game this weekend?
Yeah, I don't know why. I got a sneaky feeling that Zinchenko is going to play a big role here. I think if they have Cancelo on one side and Zinchenko on another, you have two players who can essentially operate as midfielders there. I think anything could happen here. And Pep, you know this, right? This week he was questioned about how he operates in these games, and he bristled. And did you hear what he said after that game against Atletico Madrid? He goes, "Oh, I guess I was a superstar today." He's feeling it. He is feeling it. I think this game could go in any direction. The one reason that, even though I think City will win, the one reason I'm tempted to think Liverpool could win is because the last 4 games between these two, we've seen 2 draws and 2 City blowouts. And it just doesn't feel like Liverpool fails essentially 5 times in a row against City. So can the game start right now is what I'm asking.
I know. Cannot wait for this. Guardiola, will he have his cigar out? Will Jurgen Klopp be fist pumping to the away fans at the Etihad? As I said, I'll be there for PST. Cannot wait to provide live analysis. 3 gents you see on the screen will have player ratings, 3 things we learned, video. All kinds of reaction, as I said, from on the ground in Manchester. It's going to be one heck of a game. Man City against Liverpool this weekend. Essentially, it's the title decider. And we could not, as Nick said, be more excited about this game.
Hi there, I'm Rebecca Lowe, studio host for NBC's coverage of the Premier League. Don't forget to hit subscribe to watch highlights all season long, and be sure to tune in for Premier League mornings every weekend at 7 a.m. Eastern. And for even more content, head over to Peacock, where we've got live games, original series, and a dedicated round-the-clock Premier League channel featuring studio shows, classic matches, and much more.